Snow descended in a steady rhythm upon the empty streets of downtown Boston as David Matthews made his way slowly toward his vehicle, following another extended evening at work. Now 42 years old, he had established a thriving consulting business that enabled him to care comfortably for his 10-year-old son, Nathan, though the responsibilities of raising a child alone while running a company left scant opportunity for respite, particularly during the hectic pre-holiday period. Christmas Eve ought to have been dedicated to being home with Nathan, though an unexpected emergency involving a key client had necessitated David's direct involvement. His housekeeper, Mrs. Rodriguez, had consented to remain beyond her usual hours with Nathan, guaranteeing he wouldn't spend this significant evening by himself. Yet, David experienced the recognizable burden of remorse that shadowed his regular absences. The narrow passage behind his office building remained poorly illuminated, brightened solely by the amber radiance of Christmas decorations from neighboring storefronts and the faint street lamps projecting elongated shadows across the snow-blanketed ground. David found himself mentally cataloging his agenda for the upcoming week when something captured his attention near the waste container. Initially, he assumed it was merely another discarded bag of trash. However, upon closer examination, he recognized with profound alarm that it was a young child, approximately 6 or 7 years of age, curled up against the frigid brick structure. The small girl was utilizing flattened cardboard cartons as improvised insulation and had enshrouded herself in what looked to be an adult-sized jacket far too oversized for her petite body. David's chest tightened as he drew near cautiously, hoping to avoid alarming her. In the subdued illumination, he could observe that she possessed dark hair falling in disheveled strands about her face, and her clothing, though soiled and poorly fitted, indicated that she hadn't always resided on the streets. "Hello there," David offered, softly lowering himself to her eye level. "Are you okay, sweetheart?" The young girl's eyes fluttered open and she regarded him with an expression blending fatigue and depletion. She remained silent, though David could detect that she was trembling despite the oversized jacket. "My name is David," he proceeded in the same tender voice he employed with Nathan when his son felt distressed or afraid. "It is very cold out here. Are you all alone?" The child acknowledged slowly with a nod, her tiny hands drawing the jacket more firmly around her body. David observed that her lips displayed a bluish hue, and her respiration created visible clouds in the icy atmosphere. "What is your name?" David inquired, his thoughts cycling through possibilities for assisting this child safely and properly. "Emma," she murmured, her voice scarcely distinguishable over the wind. "Emma, that is a beautiful name," David responded with warmth. "Emma, I am very worried about you being out here in the cold. Do you have somewhere warm you can go?" Emma indicated no with her head, and David witnessed tears starting to gather in her eyes. "Can you tell me about your family, Emma? Are your parents looking for you?" The small girl's face collapsed, and she started to weep softly. "Mama went to heaven last week. The mean man said I could not stay in our house anymore because Mama could not pay the money." David felt his heart shatter as he started to comprehend the circumstances. This child had recently experienced the loss of her mother and had evidently been forced from her home, abandoning her without shelter on Christmas Eve. "Emma, I want to help you," David stated deliberately. "But first, we need to make sure you are safe and warm. Would it be okay if I called some people who can help find you a place to stay tonight?" Emma observed him with fearful eyes. "Will they take me away to a scary place?" David considered his own son waiting at home, likely excited about Christmas morning regardless of David's absence. The thought of any child enduring Christmas Eve isolated and freezing was intolerable. "I promise you that I will not let anyone take you somewhere scary," David declared with determination. "But we need to get you warm and fed, and we need to find people who can help make sure you have a safe place to live." He hesitated, then reached a conclusion that astonished even himself. "Emma, would you like to come to my house tonight? My son Nathan is there, and my housekeeper, Mrs. Rodriguez, makes the best hot chocolate you have ever tasted. Tomorrow, we can figure out the best way to help you, but tonight you should be warm and safe." Emma observed him with fearful eyes. "Will they take me away to a scary place?" David considered his own son waiting at home, likely excited about Christmas morning regardless of David's absence. The thought of any child enduring Christmas Eve isolated and freezing was intolerable. "I promise you that I will not let anyone take you somewhere scary," David declared with determination. "But we need to get you warm and fed, and we need to find people who can help make sure you have a safe place to live." He hesitated, then reached a conclusion that astonished even himself. "Emma, would you like to come to my house tonight? My son Nathan is there, and my housekeeper, Mrs. Rodriguez, makes the best hot chocolate you have ever tasted. Tomorrow, we can figure out the best way to help you, but tonight, you should be warm and safe." Emma observed him with fearful eyes, and then a nod came from the girl, which means her agreement. David gently assisted her to a standing position, noting how fragile and delicate she felt. He draped his own jacket around her small shoulders and led her carefully toward his vehicle. Throughout the journey home, Emma stayed largely silent, though David found that she was 7 years old, that her mother had passed away following a prolonged illness, and that they had been residing in a small apartment until the landlord had compelled Emma to leave. She had existed on the streets for 3 days, sustaining herself on remnants from restaurant dumpsters and resting wherever she could find protection. When they reached David's residence, Mrs. Rodriguez cast one glance at the small disheveled child and instantly shifted into nurturing mode. Within moments, Emma was sitting at the kitchen table enveloped in a warm blanket, consuming hot soup while Mrs. Rodriguez prepared water for a bath. Nathan, at first intrigued by their unexpected visitor, quickly connected with Emma's gentle demeanor. He revealed his room to her, volunteered to share his toys, and maintained that she deserved some of his Christmas cookies that Mrs. Rodriguez had baked earlier that day. "Dad," Nathan spoke quietly as David settled him into bed later that night, "Emma does not have any Christmas presents, does she?" "No, son, she does not," David answered truthfully. Nathan remained quiet for a moment, then expressed with the compassionate spirit that filled David with such pride, "Can she have some of mine? I have more than I need and she doesn't have anything." David felt tears sting his eyes as he gazed at his son's sincere face. "That is very kind of you, Nathan. I think Emma would appreciate that very much." Throughout the subsequent days, as David collaborated with social services to locate Emma's suitable placement and assistance, he discovered more about her predicament. Her mother had truly passed away without any familial support network, and Emma had been too terrified to pursue help from authorities, dreading the foster care system based on frightening accounts she had encountered from other homeless people. But Emma's caseworker, Mrs. Chen, swiftly acknowledged that this was a child who had been properly cared for and cherished before catastrophe arrived. Emma was bright, courteous, and despite her recent ordeal, demonstrated extraordinary resilience and optimism. "Mr. Matthews," Mrs. Chen stated during one of their conferences, "Emma has developed a powerful bond to you and Nathan. Have you considered the possibility of becoming her foster parent with an eye toward eventual adoption?" David had been contemplating exactly that prospect, though hearing it articulated aloud rendered it both more tangible and more intimidating. "I want what is best for Emma," he expressed cautiously, "but I am a single father with a demanding business. Would that be fair to her?" "You have already shown her more stability and care in 1 week than she has experienced in months," Mrs. Chen responded, "and Nathan clearly adores her. Sometimes families are formed not by biology, but by circumstances that bring the right people together at exactly the right time." 6 months afterward, Emma Matthews was officially part of David's family. The small girl who had been resting on cardboard in an alley had flourished into a confident, joyful child who addressed David as Papa and regarded Nathan not merely as a brother, but her closest friend. The trauma of her mother's passing and her period on the street had created wounds that demanded counseling and patience, but Emma's innate intelligence and affectionate nature had surfaced as she experienced safety and security. She thrived in school, developed friendships with other children, and contributed a particular tenderness to the Matthews household that enhanced all their lives. David frequently pondered that snowy Christmas Eve when a standard walk to his vehicle had transformed 3 lives permanently. Discovering Emma had illuminated for him that success isn't calculated solely in business accomplishments, but in the love and security we can offer to those who require it most. Nathan had acquired not simply a sister, but a profound understanding of compassion and generosity. And David had realized that his capacity for love was far greater than he had envisioned, and that sometimes the most valuable gifts arrive disguised as responsibilities we never anticipated accepting. Emma's cherished aspect of their new existence was the family ritual they created of serving at the homeless shelter every Christmas Eve, providing meals and distributing gifts to individuals who found themselves without homes during the holidays. She never abandoned the memory of where she had originated, and her experience had instructed all of them that everyone merits dignity, kindness, and the opportunity to belong to a loving family. The Christmas Eve discovery that had commenced with the child sleeping on cardboard had evolved into a reminder that miracles frequently arrive not as supernatural interventions, but as opportunities for ordinary people to demonstrate extraordinary kindness when someone needs it most.